We have a lot to unpack and to talk about. It's been 5 days since the last post, 5 or 6. But first, let's get into the daily routine. Update time. So this last 3 days I've spent in Kansas City at a retreat called My House Workshop. The link is going to be below. It was outstanding. It was an outstanding retreat that was very much needed for me, and I still don't think I have fully understood or wrapped my mind around what actually happened during that retreat. And that is the hardest part of documentation. That is the hardest part of me trying to put out consistent videos, because all I want to do right now is just sit around and think and go over what happened. It was Saturday night I got back from the retreat, and yesterday I was just sitting in my apartment watching movies, watching TV, and I couldn't pull myself away, and I was so lazy the entire day, and I was just like kind of half reflecting on what happened, and I was so mentally drained. It was so weird, and I'm kind of recovering from it right now, but I want to get into some of the major points that I got from the retreat, because this retreat was a game changer. This retreat helped me look at this addiction, looked at myself so much differently. And so starting with number 1, self-awareness was one of those things that first popped up when I actually started taking practical steps out of this addiction. And this whole retreat brought me right back to self-awareness and how important it is. When you're lost in this life of just doing things that you don't want to do, you can tend to think that there's something wrong with you, that there's something naturally wrong with you, that you have addictive tendencies, or you were just born more sexual than other people, or you get aroused easier. And one thing that just kept coming back to me during this retreat is there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. Another thing that just completely blew my mind was the therapist's ability to look at my life and pinpoint why I've taken certain actions in my life. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. In my high school, I really struggled with consistent hookups, and I really struggled with chastity with other girls. And the therapist looked back on my life or my way early life, from 5 years old, and he connected something that happened when I was 5 to all the way until senior year. And he was like, this thing that happened to you, so it happened to me. It wasn't something I was naturally born with. Something that happened to me affected my mind to think that I have to prove something, that I have to hook up with girls, and to prove that I am liked, to prove to myself that people can like me. And his ability to just see that and connect that, and I didn't know what to say, and I still don't really know what to say. I'm just kind of sitting back man. And one thing that was said over and over to people was, you are not a bad person. And that was just a constant reminder of, that is why we keep falling, is because we keep telling ourselves this lie that we are bad people, that we have to live like this. And that is not true at all. That is really good work on Satan's part for making us believe this, that we're alive, but that's not true at all. You are a good person. Okay, number 3, and one of the most influential things that happened throughout the entire weekend. This was a story about a kid that was watching porn when he was really young. He was like 10 or something. And he felt really bad about it. And the thing is he didn't even go out to watch porn. Porn was an ad that popped up like it does for so many of us. It just pops up. And it was his first exposure. But he was curious and he didn't know it was inherently bad, and he kept looking at it over and over again. Now I'm missing a lot of different aspects of this story, but it ends up down the road he's an addict. He's addicted to porn, and he feels so bad about it, and he puts all this guilt on him. And when he's talking to a spiritual director or a therapist, the therapist was like, what would Jesus say if he saw you watching porn that first time? Imagine Jesus being in that room, and the kid was like, he would be so disappointed in me. He would stare at me and be so disappointed that I'm doing this, and he might yell at me. And that's when the spiritual director or therapist said, no. He would wrap you up and grab you and say, I am sorry. You were just a child. I am sorry that this happened to you. I am sorry that this ad popped up. I am sorry that you saw this at such a young age and it has changed your life. I'm sorry. You are only a child. And Jesus would take him into his arms and say, sorry that this has happened to you, little child. It's not your fault that you started watching porn. It's your responsibility to fix it. But it's not your fault that you have sexual desires. It's not your fault that the internet exposed you to something at such a young age, or your friends exposed you to pornography at such a young age, or your brothers did, or your sisters. It's not your fault, and it's your responsibility to fix this, because we can fix this. Just stop hating yourself that you struggle with this, because it's not your fault. Peace out.